welcome to the Thought Daughter Diaries, episode 2. This is my series that I've created on my YouTube channel where I want to challenge myself to create, to read, to consume consciously, and to experience new things in the world, whether that may be on my own or with other people in a collective, in a community. And welcome to the new year. It is the 9th of January, so we are pretty much almost 2 weeks into the new year, and I rung in the new year surrounded by my family. And before that I went to Cape Town for a little bit of a beach trip, and that was amazing, again with family. So I feel like I'm very much good on the whole being around people thing, and I really want to be by myself and create by myself, because as much as family is an amazing safe space, at times you really don't get any privacy, and it can sometimes bring you back to the person that you were when you were 16. So yeah, I'm very happy to have my own space again, and I'm happy to be back alone. So for tonight, I actually am going to a movie. I guess you could say it's not a specific premiere, but it is coming out today, the movie that I'm going to be watching. The movie is called Rental Family, and it's starring Brendan Fraser, and it is about a man living in Japan who gets contracted by this service that hires individuals to act in pivotal roles, and that could be acting as your friend, acting as your date, acting as any sort of person. But in this instance, he begins to act as the father of a young girl. Yeah, it is kind of sappy. I'm really wanting to challenge myself this year in watching more movie, engaging with more cinema. I didn't really watch a lot of movies last year, so I just want to spend time and intentionally go out of my way to watch movies. So I'm back from the movies. I just finished watching Rental Family, and I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. It was beautiful, sappy, and heartwarming, but it carried a deeper meaning, a very deep meaning. I did write some notes on the movie, so I'm gonna go through that, and I will be discussing spoilers for the movie. So if you haven't seen it, or if you simply don't want to know, then you can skip this part. So our movie starts out with a American man looking for a job in Japan. One thing I will say is Brendan Fraser actually learned and spoke in Japanese, so I thought that was great. I'm happy that they didn't dumb it down to a level of him just existing in Japan without having any working knowledge of the systems and the culture and the language. So I enjoy that. We see that this man, he stays by himself, and he kind of gets his fulfillment from watching other people through his tiny apartment window, but he's also not fully fulfilled because he's seeking success as an actor, and he gets a job from his agent to attend a funeral. And as he attends that funeral, he realizes that it's for a man who is pretending to be dead in order to more deeply savor his own life. And he gets in contact with a company that essentially curates experiences where you are either your husband, your friend, your mother, your brother. You exist as a individual, an actor in their life, in order to either for their own fulfillment or for the perception of people around. And initially he rejects the offer to be a sort of real life actor, but then due to his lack of success in Japan since he arrived, he decides to take on the job. And the first job that he has is for a marriage, for a woman. She needs to get married to a man in order to be free from the expectations of her parents. So this job for him is just very difficult, and he almost backs out of it, which angers some of his colleagues, but in the end he decides to go through with it. We learn that the reason why the woman needs that marriage is because she is a queer woman and she needs to appear married to her family in order to live happily with her partner in Japan. And the next job he gets is for the role of a father for a young child who needs to get into a school which will determine her university and everything. But the school is prejudiced against single women, single mothers, so they need to pretend he is the father in order for them to pass the interview into the school. And around this point in time, we get the conversation with his colleague Aiko, and she reveals to him the reason why she works in this business and believes in it so much is because it exists to kind of circumvent the rigidity of the Japanese culture. So in terms of like needing a father, not stigmatizing single moms, or not being able to be having same-sex marriages. So it's an interesting point that is made. And we learn that the boss of the company has his own family, wife and kid that he goes home to. It's later revealed at the end of the movie, even his family is like an acting family and they're actors, and he kind of curates certain moments, and if it doesn't go the way he wants it to, he's like, let's start for that from the beginning, let's do that again. So it's kind of like even the owner of the business has his own void that he needs to fill, which is very sad. Our character Philip has to be with the child for 3 weeks until the interview, and Mia, that's the child, she initially hates him, but then she starts to like him eventually, and they bond over, I think it's just like his openness. He kind of represents the antithesis of the Japanese society where it comes to rigidity and like conformity. He's very American and open and like, talk about your emotions, you can do it, kid, like that sort of like openness that Mia probably doesn't have much access to. So I think that's what they bond over. Philip gets another client, a aging actor whose daughter hired him to pretend to be a journalist in order to get him to feel more useful in his life. At the same time, Philip is getting closer to Mia, and Mia starts confiding in him and building a real relationship, which her mother does not like. So she kind of starts to dissuade her from that. This is a part where you get into the conversation where in that business the line of what you should do versus what you're paid to do becomes a bit blurry, because the owner of the business consistently said that we do this to help people, we make people happy. But like in the instance of Mia, by helping Mia, it would be to be getting closer to her because she wants to have a relationship with her dad. But that's against the wishes of the actual paying client. So now he has to kind of like distance himself from her due to his professional obligation. The business is flawed and it doesn't actually work to provide happiness, and it lacks moral clarity. We just kind of get to the end of the movie with the main point of tension being that he has to cut off connections with Mia. Mia finds out that he's an actor and is not happy with her mother for lying. And then also the man that he was, the former actor that he was paid to be a journalist for, he wants to go to his hometown before his memories lose him because he has dementia of some sort, and he crafts a master plan, but he can't really go through with it because his daughter will not be happy with that. So he asks Philip to take him, and Philip takes him and gets charged with kidnapping, and he needs to prove himself innocent. And we find that the people working at the company, even though they're fighting amongst themselves because the owner was showing a lot of cowardice in not backing him, Philip, while he was in jail, they've all come together to work to get that testimonial for him. In the end, Philip and Mia reconnect on a truthful basis of their identities, and Philip ends up divulging that missed his own father's funeral. That's why he ended up taking the man to his hometown. The actor ends up dying and Philip gets to attend that funeral. So now I'm going to talk about the themes quickly. So we have a theme of like work. There was actually a point where Philip received the acting job that he'd been waiting for his whole life, and he ended up declining that in order to continue on being an actor. But then we also have when he chose on a whim to accept that job. So he kind of does things for success, but then also rejects the success later on for human emotion and connection. Okay, so quick change of location, but I'm just gonna finish off my notes for the movie, there's also like a big theme on loneliness, and it was kind of poignant or evident in the fact that all of the workers at Rental Family struggle with their own forms of loneliness, and none of them really have their own family or people who they can turn to. As I mentioned earlier, even the owner of the company has a rental family that he uses every single day. And then we have like an icon of the funeral that was built up or brought up multiple times. Like Philip's first job was a funeral, and the movie also ended with that same funeral box with the retired actor in the funeral. And then also the idea of like Philip not being able to go to his father's funeral, but then going to the retired actor's funeral as a sort of stand-in for his father's funeral. In a sense, kind of that idea of like letting go of that burden that he had with his father. It's also like a subtle commentary on Japanese culture and the rigidity of it, and not necessarily a critique, not necessarily a desire to change, but almost like a way to circumvent. There's not really criticism of the culture, but just like a resigned sentiment, a wistful hoping for a kind of like a convoluted way to exist within their regimented, rigid society. And then there was also like this theme of God and praying. So the retired actor had he had a very large religious component, which he then imparted onto Philip. And the movie actually even ends with a sort of religious scene of Philip being led into the temple to pray, which kind of leads me to the idea of like the solution for the loneliness is God, is religion, is prayer, which is interesting. And then there's the theme of fatherhood, and kind of tying in with loneliness, like Mia not having a father and Philip not having a father, and them existing or meeting as equals, but to like soften the blow of their loneliness. There was also this really beautiful theme of memories, how the actor said that he needed to go to his birthplace before he loses his memories, and like the idea of dementia. And there was also this, when the rental family was explained at the service, they spoke about how it exists to conjure up your memories or like things that you felt in your past. So like a feeling of pride, a feeling of safety, a feeling of comfort through your mother, father, brother, etc. So like this idea of like the rental service intermingling with your memory, and your memory being this thing that you can lose and that you need to supplement or like keep alive through the company of the rental service. So, and then finally just the pros of the movie. The shots beautiful. Japan is such a beautiful place. Beautiful food, beautiful drinks, beautiful clothing. And then I loved the deeper meanings in the movie. There's just a lot of things that stuck out to me and that applied to me in a personal way, and I really enjoyed that. And then yeah, it was just an emotional movie. It was a bit cliche, but it still like struck a lot of the right emotions. And then my cons were that it was a bit shallow in a sense. It felt like a Japanese book where it's kind of like struggle exists for a millisecond before it's quickly resolved. So yeah, it just felt like a Japanese book in that sense, and that's kind of like why I sometimes don't really like some Japanese fiction, is because it can be super simplistic. And yeah, I'm tired. It's late. I'm gonna just pick up my book and go to bed after that. But I'll see you tomorrow. Hello, it is the next day, and this morning I woke up and I decided that I would like to check out a bookstore. And so I went to a bookstore that I've never been to, and I didn't really know much about it, but it actually turned out to be a bit smaller than I was expecting, and it also was like it had less people in it. Yeah, it was definitely smaller than I thought it would be, so that was interesting. I was looking for a book that I want to read next month, and that is Pet Sematary by Stephen King. That will be my first Stephen King book that I'm gonna read, and I'm excited for it. I hope it's good. I know he is like one of the best writers of our time. So I am now back from the bookstore, and I guess I just wanted to talk about my current read, which is a reread of A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. This book is huge. It is a behemoth of a novel, and it is going to take me an insane amount of time to get through. I'm currently only on page 148, so not even close to anything, but I am enjoying it. Her writing is beautiful, and I've never really had the opportunity to reread a book from the start again, so I feel like it's this odd feeling of like knowing what's going to happen, so you're paying attention to all of the little Easter eggs which are dropped, but it's also like I feel this nostalgia of being back in this place with these characters that I know and that I care about. So that is super fun, and I am reading this for book club, so in the back of my mind I know that I have to finish this huge book by the end of the month, so that does take away from the entertainment or the relaxation element of the reading process, but I still am enjoying it. I think I forgot how beautifully written this book is, or I just was at a point where I couldn't really appreciate it, but it's just some of the best writing. The imagery is amazing, and the research, it's just so intuitive. Like, this book does not feel like it's inserting itself on you. Everything feels natural, and that's the one thing that I really like about this book. So yeah, I think I'm gonna get myself a coffee, and I'm gonna sit here and read this for like an hour. I'm gonna try to get an hour in, and we'll see how far we can go with that. So I'm back from my little reading stint. It's a little bit later in the day, and I thought that would be a good time to talk about my own book collection that I have right now. And I just went through the books that I have, and I checked for the most prevalent, not just publisher, but like subsidiary of a publisher. And I actually found that my top publisher was Vintage by Penguin. So this is their line of like not necessarily always classic books, but I think it's more literary fiction veering on classic works as well. So yeah, I'm just like on their website, and it says that they publish thought-provoking, beautifully designed books, prize winners to emerging talent. So it kind of is like a mixture of like well-written, curated, crafted books, not just like any or everything gets to be a vintage book. So I'm just gonna go through the ones that I have and go through their website and see the other ones that I'm interested in reading or getting. So first we have I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hoffman. This wasn't my favorite, but there were just like definitely a lot of moments in the book that I related to, but overall the story wasn't 100% for me. Then I have Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, and I absolutely loved this book. It was super eye-opening and interesting and compulsively readable. I could not put this down, so definitely one of my favorites. And we have Written on the Body by Jeanette Winterson. This was like one of my favorite books. Completely changed my life, how I view things. Super eye-opening, super beautiful. One of the best books I've ever read. Then also The Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa. This book I really did like. I liked the meaning behind the story, and it was definitely not like anything that I've read before. So yeah, there were definitely parts that I liked in this book. And then I have La Casa in Mango Street, and this is actually vintage Spanish, so I think it still counts as vintage, but just a subsidiary of that. And this book was very interesting to read, and I enjoyed the overall theme within this book. Then we also have The Year of Magical Thinking. I think this is still vintage. I'm not 100% sure, but I really enjoyed this. Well, I thought this was good, definitely eye-opening. I learned a lot about cardiac diseases, and I also related to a lot of the author's thinking and thought patterns. But yeah, it wasn't like 100% my favorite, but I did get a lot out of this book. Then we have Slaughterhouse-Five. This book I really enjoyed. One of my favorite reads of last year. Super absurd, super crazy, but just highly important, amazing read. And then I also have Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zirpin, and this is one of my favorite books that I've ever read. It's sentimental, funny, cozy, cute, heartwarming, painful, sad. It has everything. It's just a well-rounded read. Not a perfect book, but still a really good book. So all in all, I feel like I could say that the vintage line of work is really to my taste, because most of the books that I've read from it have been successful for me. So now we're just going to go through the website and see which ones I'm interested in. So they have Beloved by Toni Morrison. I've never read any Toni Morrison, but I'm itching to read her work. She is so well regarded as an author, and I really want to read that. And then they have Disgrace by J.M. Coetzee. As a South African, I've never read J.M. Coetzee before, but I think that I would really like to pick up some of his work. They also have Pride and Prejudice. I'm obsessed with the movie. I've never read the book, but the movie is honestly one of my favorites. Like, I could probably watch it right now. It's one of my favorite movies, so I definitely need to read the book sometime soon. They also have Orlando by Virginia Woolf. That's something I want to read. They have Wuthering Heights. I want to watch the upcoming movie, and I don't think I'm going to read the book before, so I think I'll have it spoiled for me. But I think obviously the adaptation is not going to be a true representation of the book, so I think I can still read it afterwards. Mrs. Dalloway, again, Virginia Woolf. I feel like she's an author that I would really enjoy. I've never read anything by her. Frankenstein, I want to read that. I watched the Netflix adaptation recently and I genuinely enjoyed it. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, I want to read that. The Woman in White, I also want to read that. The Second Sex by Simone de Beauvoir, I want to read that. The Night Circus, I think that's a fantasy book. I've seen it on TikTok. I do want to read that one. All Quiet on the Western Front, that's something I want to read. And The Handmaid's Tale, of course, iconic. I want to read that as well. But yeah, I think vintage is I know Penguin is probably one of the largest publishers, but I do want to get into more indie, smaller publishing houses like Fitzgeraldo and NYRB. That's kind of the direction I'd like to move into more this year, but I think that showing by what I own now, it's kind of like a safe space to choose my next reads from that subsidiary of Penguin. So it is a new day, a new morning, and today I'm going to be going out to a ceramic class. Not a class, but just a ceramic workshop where you get to paint your own things. I have a couple of pictures as inspiration, and I'm really excited. I hope that I have a fun time. Let's go do that. I've been journaling now for a few months, and since I started journaling, I decided that I would like to collect a few objects that I can use in my journal spreads, and I've collected a few things, but I just need to put them into a folder so that they have a specific place and they don't just get lost everywhere in my drawers. So I have these files and this folder that I got, and I'm just going to put all of my items in there. But I thought that I could show some of the items that I've collected and things that I want to put in my journal. So we have a guide that is from the Botanical Gardens, a flyer for a club event, a flyer that I got on the beach in Cape Town, postcard from Thailand, a illustration from a company from Bali, a menu from a restaurant we went to in Cape Town, a package for a mooncake I got in Singapore, a receipt for fuel from Cape Town, a rugby championship from work that I got, a leaf that I got from the Botanical Gardens, kuromi tag that I got from Bali, wrapping paper that I got from a clothing store, this food packaging paper that I got from a restaurant, these rugby cards that I got from the shopping supermarket, the headphones that I got in the plane in Singapore, this boat itinerary guide that I got in Bali, another boat itinerary guide, my luggage tags that I got when I went to Cape Town, my luggage tag from Singapore. So yeah, I have everything here in their own little baggies. I'm just going to put them into my folder. I'm also going to do a little bit of journaling. I have this spread that I want to do in my journal, so I'm going to get to that now.